Hello everyone, I wanted to invite you to my channel. My name is Kim Pierre and the channel is about helping people with my story and my content to overcome any adversity in your life. I wrote a chapter in a book called She's Magic, and it was a collective book of 17 women around the world who all had a story to tell of how they had overcome adversity for different reasons, in various degrees. Today, I want to read you my chapter, and my chapter is called Victim to Victor. And so if I start the channel off with you understanding who I am, why I've come to sort of tell my story, and then as the channel moves on and the videos, I will increase the content of the videos in how I overcome things, knowingly and unknowingly, and how I do that now deliberately and on purpose. I just want to say that no matter where you're at, no matter what situation you're in, there is a way and you can overcome it, and the story will tell you that. Please believe me, I believe in you. I didn't believe in myself at the time, but somewhere I found a power and a strength within that we've all got. And sometimes that power and that strength comes when you most need it. The story will tell you that. I'm going to have to look at the screen because I can't read the book and do the video. I have to do it on the screen, so bear with. So it's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes, and my chapter is Victim to Victor. I was born in 1969 in England, Birmingham. I lived with my mother, father, older sister and younger brother. My earliest memories were that of an atmosphere between my mum and dad, not knowing what the atmosphere was going to be like from one day to the next. And I believe this made me quite timid as a child, and I hated loud noises as they would frighten me. Subsequently, when I was around 6 years old, my father left, leaving mum financially struggling. She did her very best, however, it was tough, as she did not have immediate family close by, as she had chosen to move away from her hometown. Looking back, mum became very depressed at times, and this made me very sad as a child. Over time, however, mum made friends with the neighbours, and this helped her as they would pop around and as kids would play together. We would go to see my nan regularly, sometimes staying over. Mum's neighbours offered to help out with us kids while mum did a little job in the evening, and one of mum's friends' husbands offered to look after us while his wife and mum went out, as he said this would cheer mum up, and this became most Saturday evenings. This was more about him because he had other ideas of what looking after my sister and I meant for him. Mum having a little job, friends in the evening, and nights out with her friends made her happier. She started to enjoy life once again. However, this was certainly not the case for me and my sister. The man sexually molested us for a year or so. The perpetrator told me if I ever told anybody, we would get into serious trouble, and I wouldn't be believed. The abuse took place separately, but I knew as I could see the way she was around him. I never said a word to my mum or anyone else. Even at such a young age, I was worried I would not be believed and I would be the one in trouble. I felt worried that my mum might not get over it, and even at this young age, he had convinced me that telling was not an option, hence getting away with it. Mum went on to meet a lovely man, and he made her very happy. The abuse stopped as my mum's friends moved to a different area. We were saved from further abuse. I would call it divine intervention. Looking back, I think this was the start of me identifying as a vulnerable victim. At the age of 7 years old, I believed this added to my sensitivity. At the age of 12, I was on my way to school and had this very odd feeling that something was not right. I went to stop to call for my friend as normal, and when I got to her house, her mom said that she'd stayed with her other friend for the night. However, she was on her way back as she needed to pick something up from school. I said, okay, I'll walk down to meet her. As I got into the lift, elevator for us American friends, a figure of what I thought was an old man through the frosty glass was walking as if stooped over. And then someone got in the elevator and was standing behind me. I didn't even look at the man. I just recall he had bright ginger hair. I remember very vividly he started to breathe very, very heavily, and he was moving his hands. I was afraid to turn around as I knew he was going to hurt me. I had a vision that he had a gun and he would shoot me. I then felt very calm. He proceeded to put a wire over my neck and started to pull the wire tightly, strangling me. They say that your life can flash before you if you think you're about to die, and my life started to flash before me. I was struggling to breathe, and I kept seeing pictures of myself as a youngster. The lift elevator was now reaching to the ground floor, and I remember falling to the floor as I began to fight for my life. I don't know where I got my strength to overcome my fear. I started to fight, trying to shout, grab and kick him. He let go because I think this behaviour shocked him, and I made so much noise I was screaming at the top of my voice. I somehow kept the lift elevator door open with my foot. I wasn't ready to die. I think I might have passed out for a short period of time, maybe seconds. I recall him running off and the caretaker of the apartment's flat suddenly standing over me. At that point, I went into shock. The police were called and he was wanted for attempted murder. However, no one was ever arrested. I didn't receive any kind of counselling or support on how this might have affected me. When I look back, I know for sure that I was definitely now vulnerable, identified as a vulnerable victim of life. I lost interest in school and I did not want to go. I just messed around. The apartment block flats were literally across the road from my school, and of course my friends still lived there. This was a constant reminder of the incident each day. Consequently, I did not do very well at school and I left school with no qualifications. I often wonder, had I received some support or counselling after the attack, would I have done better at school? By this time, Mum had moved back to her hometown. She had met and married a man within 6 months. At the time, I did not like him, and it was clear Mum had rushed into this marriage. She regretted marrying him, and I could not handle the environment at home, so I went to live with my friends and their mum. I was young, 16, and had left home, no qualification, no prospects, no guidance, and I had no idea what the future held for me. I don't even think I cared at this point. I got a little job and I went out and had fun with my friends and enjoyed myself. However, I always had the underlying feeling of unease about my life, most likely due to the fact that I'd received no form of counselling of my past trauma, and I just went along in life never feeling at peace. I went on to meet a man who was 20, and I guess at 16 I thought I loved him as 16-year-olds do. He wasn't an angel and he'd been in prison. However, when I met him, he was trying to turn his life around. He was a youth leader at the local church, and although I knew he wasn't an angel, he made me laugh. I thought he would look after me and I needed to feel loved. Looking back, he controlled me from day one. I lived with my friends and my sister. I spent most nights with him at his father's home, and we'd been together for around 8 months when one morning we were woken by the police, who arrested him. He remained in custody. Here I was, lost, heartbroken, 17, my boyfriend in prison, and now I'm 6 weeks pregnant. I spent my pregnancy visiting him in prison and had the naive notion that he would get out of prison, hoping we would have a great life when he did get out. I was naive because, after all, I was a child of 17. I was totally lost in this world. I moved in with my partner's mother and went on to have my son. My son's father was released from prison and I thought everything would be fine. We found an apartment, a flat, and I quickly remember thinking, what have I done? I grew up very quickly after having my son, and I knew this was not the life I wanted with this man. He controlled me. I felt trapped, scared, confused, and lonelier than I ever had in my whole life. The 7 years I spent with him felt like my own prison sentence. Over the 7 years, his control became more and more frightening. There was no escaping him. I was physically, verbally, mentally, emotionally, sexually abused by this man. By now, I absolutely identified as a vulnerable victim and completely at his mercy. He would tell me how I would never amount to anything, that I was stupid, not capable of anything, or that life would never be worthwhile, and the best I could hope for was to be that of a toilet cleaner. Here I was trying my very best to protect my son, to bring him up the best I could, and he made my life hell. I remember thinking, when I get out of this, I will show him and the world exactly what I am capable of. I never stopped believing that, even in my darkest days. I felt totally trapped. I would leave and go to different parts of the country, to women's refuges, only for him to pay private detectives to find me. He would make promises to change, and things would actually get worse as his behaviour to control just increased. The abuse in the early days was that of punching, slapping and intimidation, and that grew in its nature to quite traumatising behaviour, and several times I feared for my life. I had a breakdown and literally thought I was never going to find my strength. I would function around my son. Time alone was spent cleaning the home and doing all I could to create normality for my son. I could sit for hours just staring into space, so afraid that I might not survive the hell I was in. Like any abuse relationship, there were times where things would be calm. However, that would never last long. And if things didn't go well in his life, I suffered the consequence. I was his stress ball and he was squeezing the life out of me. The day I stopped identifying as a vulnerable victim was the last day he ever laid his hands on me. I was at the sink in the kitchen, I was washing up, and I do not recall what started the incident. He was holding my hair and pushing my head in and out of the water. Each time I came up out of the water, he had a knife to my throat. I looked at him and I looked up to the sky and I said, "This is enough. I am not doing this any longer. Just do what you want." I meant it, and he knew it. I just did not care anymore. I looked him in the eye, and to this day, I do not know what happened. I do now. I decided that day I had to end this and take back my control. My behaviour seemed to shock him, as I truly meant what I said. He let go of my hair, he put the knife down, and he walked out. I took him to court. I got an injunction out on him to prevent him from just coming and going from my home. I did this despite him always warning me that if I ever did, he would throw acid in my face to ensure that no other man would ever look at me. I could no longer live the life. I guess it was stand up and die, and I decided to fight back. I'm not saying that this was easy, and looking back, it was a dangerous situation. He could have responded in a different way, but from that day forward, he never laid another finger on me. I did still have fear of his behaviour, as he could be very unpredictable. I stood strong. Something that last day of the incident changed my whole life. For years, I always had a fear of creating a life for myself. I had so much anxiety, my confidence was low to even try and create a life. I decided to take action. I was gaining more confidence. I enrolled at college, and for the first time in my life, I felt normal. I was hopeful for my future, and I was told I could do anything I put my mind to. This gave me confidence to find work and start to build a life of my own. I worked my way up in education, training, and with major determination to use my life experiences to help others. I set out to create a good income, to look after my son, to ensure he had a fulfilled mom who was capable of creating a good, stable life for him, to educate him on how, despite the past, we could together overcome adversity, shine to become the amazing people we are today. I was a senior care manager as well as a respected professional in my own right, and I positively impacted so many lives through my career. I helped people with complex mental health and learning disabilities of dual needs. I also created jobs through my vision, ability and sheer determination to create and find a way when others couldn't see the vision, which makes me so very proud. I knew I wanted to help people. It was a natural instinct in me. Despite my background, I felt it was a calling of some sort. My ex-partner continued to be unwell and suffered a head injury during the time we were together. This went on to destroy his life by years of self-destruction, causing chaos and destruction to many. After being wanted by the police for 6 years for murder and a whole host of despicable crimes, he was captured and hung himself in prison, a crack addict. I felt a great sense of freedom. I also felt a great sense of relief that he could no longer hurt other people. He was a very dangerous man, and I was very lucky to have escaped him. I know now my life happened for me and not to me. I can now be of service to others in need of healing from emotional pain. I have gratitude that I found strength deep within me to overcome my past and live my best life ever. And guess what? You can too. You are more than you will ever know. You are stronger than you think. And my advice would be to you, if you are suffering in any form, please get help. There is always a way. Do not stay thinking there is no way out. I'm here to tell you that there is. My advice for you is, if you continue to suffer from past negative, suppressed emotions or trauma or emotions that no longer serve you, is get help now. These can keep you stuck in the past and encroach on your present moment in time. You are amazing, beautiful, strong and resilient. And that's my message today. You are. We are, and there is nothing or anyone that can hold you back. If you read that story and you read between the lines of, you know, the trauma as a child, the trauma as a teenager, the trauma as, you know, a mom that was struggling as a teenager, I didn't have that guidance. I didn't have the support when, you know, the most traumatic thing that could happen to a child happened. She wasn't aware of the abuse. However, I feel then that that's how I attracted the relationship I did into my life. But that if we look deep within, we will find that strength to help us to overcome, to take ourselves out of the situations. And you know, you might say, but you don't understand my situation. My situation is this, my situation is that. It's, you know, my point is, regardless of the situation, regardless of the constrictions and the challenges, you can. I'm going to follow my this video up on my channel with, if there's any questions, you can find me on Facebook. It's just simply Kim Pierre. You will easily find me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to give any advice and any support that I can. The intention behind this channel is to help people, to be a you know, an example of how we can overcome. This story, my situation was many years ago, and I was very ashamed of my story. You know, I always had this feeling of writing a book, or, you know, it turns out it was in a chapter, but it's what empowers you, and it empowers others to understand we can overcome, we have the strength to overcome. And, you know, there is people there that can support you, that have overcome. And that's what has helped me over the years. So I hope you you know, took something from the story. It might resonate with you, it might not, it might help other people. So please share if you feel that it would help somebody else. And I'll see you soon on my next video. Bye.